Hey, so I'm making more ruined city buildings, and I'm trying to find a way to make the biggest, most impactful buildings possible that have the most playable space possible while being as simple to build as possible. And I've come up with this idea here, a larger building that's destroyed right through the center. You know, often these buildings have a back wall and two side walls and are open from the front. My thought is I can make a bigger building and have more of it wrecked by leaving the middle open, and that'll really be a big impact on the table and have lots of places to put minis, but I won't have as much surface area to cover. To make it stronger, I've added some broken vertical supports here. These will also give more line of sight cover kind of areas for minis to creep through, but it also creates these voids that I can then put some weight in to make this thing heavier, and then cover with a piece of foam core, and then cover with some rubble. So it will look cooler, be more collapsed and interesting, but I'm gonna cut out this whole section of the building that I actually have to build. Hey, nice. I like it. I approached this build a bit differently than the first smaller one that I made in the last video. I had two major thought processes going on that would contribute to how the build played out. I focused on working from the ground up and doing some steps earlier than I had last time to ensure they were easier to do. Like applying all of the brickwork on the main floor before anything else, while I could still get my hands in there easily. I hot glued a main starter row in place before doing the majority of the bricks with PVA glue. This would ensure I had a stable row to push into that wouldn't move around as I did the rest of the pattern. I also did the outer foundation bricks very early in the process, again utilizing hot glue to set the bottom row and the corners before moving on to laying the rest with PVA glue. Now, the other mindset I tried to keep during this building was one of meandering exploration and fun. I didn't set a time limit for myself. I didn't put any pressure on when it had to be done. This meant I could spend a lot more time just sort of playing as I built, trying different things, adding different elements. Even if it meant taking longer, I worked without the feeling that I needed to get the whole thing covered in details as fast as possible. I allowed myself the freedom to pick away at different areas of the building slowly, giving myself time to try different aesthetic things. This meant that overall the building would end up a lot more diverse in its style. Each level or section would have some different details and even materials that would make it feel more alive, like it had a bit of a story to tell. This is a freedom I don't often allow myself because of the unavoidable reality of being a content creator. I'm always on a deadline. And that isn't necessarily representative of how the average hobbyist approaches their work. Sure, there are times when you might feel rushed to finish some terrain or miniatures because of an upcoming event, but for a lot of people, it's just a way to pass the time, meaning they can get a bit lost in the detail. And while trying to come up with really efficient methods to share with people is a fun challenge, it's also very liberating and relaxing to just take a breath and not rush things. There's a lot of magic that can be found when casually exploring a build rather than racing to a finish line. Sometimes when you are focused so much on just getting an entire thing done, you can lose sight of the minutiae of a project. When you rush through details or steps in order to get to a larger finished goal, it can be easy, if not unavoidable, to miss out on so many great ideas along the way. More importantly, this pressure of finishing things can really suck the joy out of creation. There's this old but true trope that at the end of something, that's not the important part. It's the journey that was important. And this is obviously true, but what I think can sometimes be missed in this lesson is the fact that a well-explored journey that takes time to smell the roses along the way can also create a much more interesting and dynamic ending. Hey, if you need to make a website, I highly suggest checking out Squarespace to do it. It's what I use for all of my sites, and I'm a big fan of how easy their templates and drag and drop design system are to use. On my main blackmagicraft.ca website, I've been utilizing their online store to sell various builds and merchandise from the channel, and it works great. I recently added this new Undead Guardian miniature to my web shop that you can order now, and it only took a couple of minutes to set up and publish the listing. I love it because when anyone puts in an order for something on my website, I can print off shipping labels directly from my courier's website because of Squarespace's integration with various shipping platforms. I honestly don't think there's a better system out there for designing and hosting a website or web store, especially if you have limited knowledge of web design. Well, really, even if you have no knowledge of web design. If you can use a computer to browse social media, you can build a professional looking website with Squarespace. There's a link in my description that you can use to start a free trial and then save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain using the code BlackMagicCraft. Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Now back to the build. The hero's journey isn't just a literary template. It's one that can be applied to many aspects of life. When you simply make something and rush through it, you tend to zone out along the way. So you'll end up with a finished creation, but you're probably the same as you were before you started it. You likely didn't learn or change very much. When you explore a bit during the creative process, when you have more of a conversation with the piece that you're creating, letting it respond to your inputs, then adjusting your responses back, you end up growing as a creator. You end up unlocking parts of your creative mind that are sadly locked away when just building on a straight road with only a finish line in your sights. Not only does taking a more relaxed creative path put you as the creator on a hero's journey, it has a similar effect on the actual thing you're building. The effort, consideration, care, and love that you put into a project by taking your time with a project, respecting the project while making it, leaves you with a finished item that is much more rich, one that has far more depth both visually and metaphorically. This way of building, sort of having a back and forth with the project, a kind of dance, so to speak, ends up baked into the DNA of a build that might not be overtly obvious to someone looking at it in the end, but it will get to them subconsciously. It says, hey, I respect you. I respect your time, and I want you to have the best, most immersive time possible. So I made this table, this house, this miniature, with care and passion. I let it take as long as it needed to take so that I could give you the best possible experience when using it. Listen, I have so much fast, easy terrain that I've built over the years. It serves a purpose and often gets the job done with an amount of effort that is realistic for most people most of the time. And personally, I enjoy the challenge of making things as efficiently as possible. But damn it, it feels good to once in a while get lost in the weeds and just take my time on something. This has all been a long-winded way of saying that I didn't get this project finished in time to put the final thing in one video. I still need to do the rubble, the stucco, and the painting, but that'll include some interesting challenges to overcome, so I'll save it for next video. I hope you enjoyed watching this and that it inspires you to build something cool. Be sure to leave a comment and like the video, as that will actually help it get shown to others. If you want to get your hands on some of my original builds to use in your own games, or some of my original merch like my Undead Guardian mini, you can do that on blackmagiccraft.ca. And if you'd like to support me and my creative endeavors and help me to keep sharing them with the world, joining the channel on Patreon is a very important and much needed way for you to do that. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay crafty.